Novak Djokovic had seen many prodigies come and go. Some came with hype and disappeared with a whimper. Others lasted longer, posed threats, even won titles. But none had the audacity that Carlos Alcaraz showed at Roland Garros 22 for it. Wasn't just the tennis. It was the smirk, the stare-downs, the post-match comments that oozed cocky energy. "I think this is a new era," Carlos had said. Right after beating Novak in the semi-dash final, Novak smiled in front of the cameras. But inside, something snapped. For 2 decades, he had ruled the courts, defeated giants, silenced crowds, and now, a boy barely out of his teens had the nerve to call time on his reign. But Novak wasn't angry because Carlos beat him. He was angry because Carlos didn't fear him, not like they all did back in Monte Carlo. Novak sat with his longtime coach Goran Ivanovic and his wife Jelena at dinner. Lena laughed at something Carlos had said in a press conference, teasing Novak lightly. Nothing unusual. But that night, as Novak scrolled through his phone, he saw a direct message on Jelena's locked Instagram account. It was from Carlos, just a single emoji. His world slowed. He opened the message history. Most of it was innocent, brief dimes from the past, mostly tennis-related. But 3 recent messages stood out. "Your husband is a legend, but I hope you cheer for the future. You look stunning in the stands today." Novak didn't. Tell her, not yet. Instead, he stared at the ceiling that night, hands clenched. Teeth grinding, Carlos hadn't just taken his match. He was trying to take everything. Asterisk the next day. Novak showed up at the practice courts 2 hours early. He hit harder than usual. The balls cracked off his racket like thunder. His team watched silently, exchanging worried glances. "Carlos is just a kid," Goran said, trying to ease the tension, but Novak didn't reply. Later that evening, he watched every Carlos interview he could find, studied his mannerisms, played the handshake from Roland Garros in slow motion. Frame by frame, the smirk was real. Then came Wimbledon. They were placed on opposite sides of the draw. The media hyped it. The future versus the legend, will the clash repeat? But Novak had other plans before the tournament began. He invited a small group of journalists to a private off-court dinner. What followed was a carefully planted rumor. Carlos had a history with women in the locker room. Coaches' daughters. Married staff. Even the wife of a well-known sponsor. None of it was proven. But the seed was planted. Carlos noticed at his next press conference, a reporter asked, "There are whispers about your personal life off the court. Anything you'd like to clear up?" Carlos blinked.
I smiled awkwardly.
"I don't know what you're talking about." He knew exactly what was happening. Novak wasn't playing tennis anymore. He was playing war. But then something Novak hadn't expected happened. Jelena received an invitation to a high-end tennis charity gala. Novak was in London, preparing for a match, unable to attend. Jelena decided to go dash alone. Carlos was there. Photos surfaced the next day. One of them standing close, another of Carlos whispering something in her ear as she laughed. It was innocent, but not to Novak. He stared at the photos for minutes, then threw his phone against the wall. Asterisk Novak didn't sleep that night. He paced the hotel room like a caged animal, watching the blurry reflection of himself in the mirror, that smirk. Act. Damned smirk. Jelena came back from the charity event around midnight. She looked radiant, relaxed. Novak, on the other hand, was a storm waiting to explode. "Did you enjoy the gala?" he asked, voice steady but eyes sharp. She nodded. It was lovely. Carlos was there. I saw Novak cut her off. She froze. Saw what? Photos. The smile. The way he leaned in like you belonged to him. Jelena's expression changed. "Are you serious?" But Novak was past reason. "You know what he's doing, don't you? He wants to take everything that's mine. The matches. The crown. You." Jelena shook her head. "You're being paranoid." But deep down, even she wasn't sure anymore. The next day, Novak made a call to Luca Bianchi, a discreet fixer with ties to the shadows of European tennis. Luca specialized in information, in reputation management, in destroying people without touching them, I want everything on Carlos, Novak said coldly. His team, his sponsors, his weaknesses. And if there's even a whiff of a scandal, I want it public. Luka didn't ask questions. He never did. Meanwhile, Carlos sensed it. The energy. The shift. On court, Novak no longer played with elegance. He played like a man possessed. Brutal, precise, relentless. He crushed his early Wimbledon matches in straight sets. Carlos followed suit. But the weight of whispers sheeting, arrogance, ambition was starting to affect him. Back in his locker room, he found a note in his bag. No signature. Just for words. Printed in all caps. She's not yours. Ever. Asked. His hand trembled as he crumpled it. He knew who sent it. Carlos tried to shrug it off. The note, the media pressure, the strange energy in the locker rooms. He told himself Novak was just rattled, losing grip on his throne, lashing out. But something had changed. During a Wimbledon quarterfinal match, Carlos noticed something odd. One of his trainers, Diego, wasn't at his usual post. Instead, a new staffer stood in the box, watching him closely, arms crossed. Carlos had never seen him before. Later in the physio room, he confronted the team. "Where's Diego?" "What?" No one gave a straight answer. That night, Diego messaged him. "Bro, I got fired," they said. "I breached confidentiality. I didn't be careful. Someone's inside your camp." Carlos stared at the screen in disbelief. Novak had planted someone. Inside his own team. That wasn't mind games anymore. Was war. Meanwhile, Luca Bianchi delivered. He'd unearthed compromising voice messages. Carlos, years ago, speaking flirtatiously with a married female reporter who now worked for a top sports network. It was years old, but with the right editing, could look recent. Novak's PR team made it viral. "Is Carlos Alcaraz a homewrecker?" Read the headline on a gossip site. 48 hours later, Carlos denied everything, but the damage was done. Sponsors grew cold. Reporters grew sharp. Jelena grew silent. Then came the moment that flipped everything. After Novak's semi-final victory, he stood in the hallway for his post-match interview. Carlos was walking past, heading out for practice. Their eyes met. And Novak said, just loud enough for the mic to pick up, "Tell me, was she worth it?" Carlos froze. His jaw tightened. The world had just heard the line. The media spun into frenzy. Social media exploded. Hashtag "was she worth it" trended for 3 days. And suddenly, this was no longer about tennis. It was about possession, revenge, pride. Asterisk Wimbledon 2024 final, Djokovic. But no one was talking about tennis anymore. It was the most anticipated match in recent memory, not because of rankings, but because the world sensed something deeper. This wasn't about points or trophies. This was about ego, about betrayal, about vengeance, and everyone could feel it. The night before the match, Carlos sat alone in his hotel suite, staring at his phone. Dozens of missed calls. His publicist, his mother, even Jelena had called once, no message. Didn't call her back. Was it guilt or something else? A knock came at the door. He opened it slowly, expecting one of his coaches. Instead, he found a sealed envelope on the floor. No name, just the word "tomorrow." Inside was a single photo, Jelena, in a cafe. With Novak's son, the date stamp was just 3 days ago. Carlos staggered back. The message crystal clear: "Stay away from my family, or I'll remind the world whose name they carry." I had underestimated Novak. Across the city, Novak stood on his hotel balcony. Looking out over London's glowing skyline, Goran stood behind him, nervous. "You sure you're okay to play tomorrow?" "All this, it's gone too far." Novak didn't respond for a long moment. Then quietly, "I'm not playing to win, playing to end him." He meant it. He had destroyed Carlos's image, manipulated the media, infiltrated his team, turned the world against him. And now, he'd finish it where it all began, the court. But Goran didn't say what he was thinking in trying to destroy Carlos. Novak had become everything he once fought against. Tomorrow was no longer a final. It was a reckoning. Center court was electric, not for the love of the sport, but for the love of blood. Two men walked onto the grass that morning, legends in different phases of their journey. But the crowd knew this wasn't about forehands and backhands. This was about dominance, ego, and unspoken hatred. Carlos entered first, his face emotionless, jaw tight. The usual fire in his eyes had been replaced with something darker, exhaustion. Maybe shame. Novak followed, calm, composed, like a general walking into his last battle. They didn't shake hands. They didn't look at each other. Even the umpire noticed the tension and skipped the usual pleasantries. The match began. Novak played like he was writing. A eulogy, elegant but merciless. Every serve was a weapon. Every return a calculated punch to the ribs. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to break Carlos. Carlos, for his part, started slow, distracted, mistimed shots, misjudged volleys. The noise in his head was louder than the cheers of the crowd. Every time the camera panned to Jelena, sitting stone-faced in Novak's box, his concentration faltered. The first set? 6-1, Djokovic the second. 6-2, Djokovic. The commentators danced around the obvious. Carlos doesn't seem himself today. Maybe nerves. Maybe something else. Third set. Carlos started to fight back. He cracked an ace down. The T yelled in frustration, slammed his chest with his fist. Finally, he was angry. Finally, he was present. For the first time in the match, Novak faltered.